It'll still open.
Oh,
It's
not
coming.
gonna work?
It'll come
Oh,
up.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm just used to something faster, I guess. Yay for Netscape. Are we recording?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, can everyone please just turn off your monitor? Just press the button here on the monitor to turn it off. And then you won't be tempted to look at your screen during class. Turn off your monitors. Everybody turn off your monitors. Okay. It looks like this time the PowerPoint's working, unlike the last 3 times that I've tried to do PowerPoints in here, and they've not worked. Although it looks as if my graphics are not going to show up, but I guess the text is the most important. So today we're going to be talking about controlling crime. I know it's been a while since we've worked on the book because you guys have done your group projects and things like that, but we're going to try to get back into the book for this last class, finally at the end. So this is on for chapter 8 on page 113. So if you could go ahead and get out your books and turn to this page. Since it has been a while since we've been talking about crime and actually talking about anything in the book, let's do a little bit of a review, I guess, to help refresh our memories on what we talked on last. And let's talk about exactly what is crime. Okay, so we talked about in the last class where we dealt with the book that crime is a deviant act that is prohibited by law. And as deviant, that means it's something that's viewed as unacceptable, right, by society. We talked about, I think Kelly discussed this with you guys, probably. And that could be anything. It could be actually a crime like stealing, abuse, or something like that. But it can also be things that aren't crimes. It's like nose rings, you know, or something like that, or tattoos on your face, or, you know, something that people think that are not the norms in society. Okay? And prohibited, remember that it just kind of means not allowed. Okay? So kind of keep these words in mind as we talk about controlling crime, how to prevent these deviant acts. Okay? So let's turn in your books, like I said, to page 113. I don't know why I said 118. I guess I got confused there. So 113. And read along on with me as I read the paragraph at the top on getting started. And look at the picture of the cop, the policeman. Okay? It says, in this section, you're going to discuss the problem of how to control crime. Then you will listen to people express opinions about various crimes, decide how certain of their opinions the people are, and discuss whether or not you agree with them. So that's what we're going to deal with today. We're going to be talking about how we can control crime in different ways, and then we're going to listen to some interviews of a couple of people and their opinions on crime control, and then you're going to discuss in groups and also as a class discussion your views on controlling crime, what you believe what you believe should be done to prevent crime, and maybe to even after it's happened, how to help the criminals, you know, integrate back into the regular society. Okay, who would like to read the passage at the bottom of page 13? Can I have a volunteer? Okay, thank you, Ms. Suk. Everyone follow along as Ms. Suk reads.
Violent crime has dropped in the United States in recent years, but the overall crime rate is still alarmingly high. Crime control is one of the most difficult and controversial subjects in sociology. People have very different beliefs about the best way to lower the crime rate. Many people believe that the best way to control crime is to stop it from happening in the first place. This might mean developing educational and social programs to discourage young people from becoming involved in criminal activity, or having more police officers in the streets. Other people think that the best way to control crime is to have tougher punishments. This might include having stricter laws, more arrests, and longer prison terms.
Okay, so we have two different opinions here on crime control. One is that you're going to stop it from happening, you know, and that's preventing the crime. And the other is after the people actually commit the crimes, to be more strict in the punishment for these crimes. So now what I want you to do, there's a few new vocabulary words in there. You may know them, you may not. What I want you to do is to work in pairs together, and you're going to decide on a definition for each of these words. First of all, you need to find these words in the paragraph and circle them, and then together I want you to agree on a definition. Try not to use your dictionaries. Try to use the context and just try to figure it out by discussion. And also, when you finish that, complete numbers 2 and 3 at the top of page 14. I'll come around and see if you guys need some help. Are there any questions on what you need to do? Does everybody understand? Okay. Since we're uneven in number, there can be one group of 3. Don't worry, I'm not going to move this. I'm going to leave it on the board so you don't have to write it down. And I'll put the PowerPoint on Blackboard at the end.
It's not easy to pronounce the first word.
Try to pronounce the word.
Alarming.
Here, over here, Grace. Be sure to circle the words in your paragraphs first.
And controversial.
Okay, it's okay.
Controversial. Yeah, together it kind of controversial. It's encouraged students to start summer and yeah, the opposite was is encouraged.
Still similar, right?
Yes, it's similar, but different.
A little bit slightly.
Okay.
Did you figure out prison term?
Prison terms, yeah, the period. The period, yeah, when prisoners stay. Yeah.
Having trouble with
That's
this?
where
Yeah, you guys make me feel physical practice. Did you guys feel any difference between prayer and scripture? How far you use the scripture is how it's enforced. It's almost like social now. It's almost from the mountain.
The second one is
Kind of almost. But there's really similarities between the two ones. Have you guys heard of this one before?
Yes.
Some more helps like, do you know of anything that's controversial, right? Yeah, the marriage is yeah. Good.
yeah, through your education, you can teach yourself
Oh, you already finished the work?
his students
What did you guys think?
not to
To stay.
to do something more.
People in different groups. Do you know something?
Number three is
Right now, in
these
the
questions and show your answer to your question.
his election. Yeah, that's there's kind of everybody's arguing against it. If it's a good idea for him to be in office. Yeah, that's good. Do you have any questions so far?
A little one. Enough to have your
now.
to People think contract is just for games. But here,
No, not students, I mean the people. People can carry guns. Yes. So even though teachers or educators try to educate their students not to carry, not to do something wrong, not to commit crimes, but after graduation, they can, in school, no crime, no violence. But actually, in society, we can see a lot of people carrying violence.
Okay, let's try to wrap up in the next minute, okay? Okay, let's discuss these a little bit, okay? It seemed like most of you knew what all of these words meant, and also you said that you'd heard controversial before, and you discussed that, and all of you were familiar with things that were controversial. So I don't want to spend much time on these words, but I thought it'd be a good way for you guys to warm up. So we're talking about alarmingly. It's just like kind of frightening, filled with fear. So, just like the root word like alarm. Like just when you wake up in the morning, you have your alarm clock. It kind of shocks you, gets you prepared. So alarmingly, your feelings are filled with fear. You have a question?
it's scary.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're scared of something, or it frightens you. Yeah.
Question.
Yes.
What is the difference between frightening and scary?
Frightening and scary.
Yeah.
Well, they're really similar words. I don't think there's much of a difference. Just when you're alarmed, you become alert. You can, just like there could be a fire, and then the alarm goes off, and then you're alarmed, and then you're alert to what's going on, and it's scary to you. You become alert to this thing that's happening, and then you get scared of this thing. But yeah, scared and frightened, it's pretty similar to me, I think. Okay, controversial. We were talking about, usually it's some topic or some view or something, and there's two sides or more than two sides, and the people can't agree. And some people mentioned Bush's re-election and gay marriage as two really good examples. So discouraged. You don't want to. This is something when you're trying to show somebody you don't approve of something they're doing, and you want to try to prevent this from happening, prevent them from doing this. Do you know what the opposite of discourage is? Encourage. So when you encourage someone, you try to get them to do that. Something maybe you encourage someone to get good grades. Discourage them from partying all night in clubs or something. Okay, so tougher. This is like tougher and also stricter is kind of a similar meaning, but tougher is, in this context, I kind of think is kind of meaning, when they're talking about the punishments, is kind of just a more severe, more heavy kind of punishment as opposed to like, if someone committed a crime of killing someone, either them spending their life in prison, or maybe them, you know, that person has to die with the death penalty. Does everybody know what the death penalty is?
Yeah.
Could you tell us? Could you tell us what the death penalty is? Do you know?
Kill them for instance.
Yeah, the punishment is actually to take their life. Okay, and prison terms is basically the amount of time that a convict must stay in prison as punishment for a crime. So here's another word we have is convict, and convict is the person who's guilty of a crime. Okay, when they're placed in prison or have a we say sentence is what their punishment is. Okay, you guys did a good job. Let's go over a couple of these questions that you answered in groups. Look at number 3. Who would like to read question number 1 that's in number 3? Okay, thank you, Mandy.
Which of the two different approaches to controlling crime do you think is more effective? Why?
Okay, who would like to answer that question? Somebody that hasn't spoken today.
I agree the first method is better.
And what was the first method?
Yeah, educational and social problem. But I don't think actually personally, I don't think that's the like ineffective way to prevent people to commit crimes.
So
It's
what?
because in school, teachers can educate students not to commit crimes. But after graduation, when they go to society, they can see lots of people carrying so many guns and doing something wrong. So in that case, any educational program is not effective. So I think the society should change the law or regulation.
So you think it can't be, you have to fix the problem in society before you can just educate people. So you feel that even though they have the education, that society is still going to influence them to do the wrong thing. Okay. That's one opinion you can keep in mind when we do the activity today.
Just my opinion.
Okay, but you still think that education out of those two choices is the better of the two? Okay. How about, who would like to read number 2 and the question 2 and the group of questions number 3? Mommy, would you like to read for me? Yes, number 3, the second question in number 3.
Do you think your community has a high crime rate or a low crime rate? Explain.
Okay, so you guys think about where you live. Most of you live here on campus in Murray. What do you think about the crime rate in Murray? Gigi, what do you think?
Low.
Low. Can you make any guesses why you think the crime rate is low?
I haven't seen any crime and any police car except traffic points.
So do you know why?
In Murray, drinking liquor in street is illegal, and I haven't seen gun in Murray too.
So you think maybe the law about alcohol influences crime rate? Okay, does anybody else have anything they want to add to why they think Murray is a safe place to live? Anybody have any guess? Any opinion?
I think Murray is a safe place because I went to Boston to Mexico to attend here, and at that time there were many some relationships through church or some organizations, so they don't need to steal or happen occur crime. But in Boston is a big city, so there are many strangers or there are many sightseeing essentially. So some people may occur a crime again against the for sightseeing.
Okay, you made some really good points. You talked about how Murray has like a lot of community support from the churches and organizations, so maybe that's why there's not as much crime. And it's smaller, so of course smaller numbers of people, maybe smaller crime rate. Okay. I also think it has a lot to do with maybe the image of the university. Maybe they want to keep the crime rate down because nobody wants to go to school somewhere where the crime rate is high and there's going to be a chance of you having, being exposed to a crime being committed around you or something like that. Okay, all good answers. I guess let's go on to the listening for opinions. That's on page 114. And in the pink box, if you'll take a look, it's talking about listening to people when they give their opinions and how strong that they feel their opinion is. You can kind of take you can listen to when people talk, and just by the tone of their voice and some of the wording they use, be able to determine how strong they feel about something. Like here in the book it says, when the speaker just gives an opinion, they say things like, I think, I believe, I feel that, in my opinion, those kind of different phrases. Just like I put the example on the board, I think the prison terms need to be increased. Another is like when they're very sure, they feel strongly about their opinion. And they use like exclamatory sentences, and they use like words like really, and convinced, certain, things like that. So you can kind of keep that in mind. And then also if they're not sure, they often mumble a little bit or go, well, I don't know, I guess. They use these type of words when they're talking about some subject or something like that. So what I want you to do now is keep this in mind. Keep these three different ways of giving opinions in mind, and how strong of an opinion it is, while you read on page 115 about the different types of crime. And then they have examples of those. So you can do that independently. Go ahead and take about, 7 or 8 minutes and read about the different types of crime and the examples on page 115. If you have any questions, raise your hand and I'll come and help you. Okay, now that I think that most of you're all are finished already, so I don't want us to run out of time. So can you switch partners with somebody, pick a new partner, and then discuss these with your partner and decide if you think, how severe you think these crimes are. If you think these are really crimes or not, what do you think about them?
Do you think when the 60s were so high, or the 60s now?
The children is yours without your instance, I take your son.
Do you think so? I don't think so.
Because even though they was hiding make, but it doesn't affect the other person. Around robbery or assault. Yeah. So it's like society.
Because if someone use others' ID card to buy person paying it, the cost is different.
Just for
But if the theory can wrong, can be wrong.
So, do you think it's more resisting?
If the theory
If the
has
host are, yeah, okay.
difficult situation to
So
do
you
wrong.
So if you
Yeah,
want
but
to
Different,
accuse him,
differences.
in the case, yeah, maybe.
Cost.
Yes.
How has agreed to
I don't interrupt you.
And also, I think just like if someone who has a wrong idea about something about
The case here, yeah.
crime,
Yeah.
so if they get, for example,
Just a few
to violence
just
and
for
call,
short time.
These two examples here are
it will be
common.
harder. But
Does that make
in
more
my
sense?
case,
That's the part.
I usually
Try to agree. If you really don't agree,
follow
you
my
also
side.
And there is a
how you feel about these two examples. Do you feel like these two
So what? What's our point?
Okay, I just want to make sure, because they had a question, so I want to make sure that you guys.
Ah, yeah,
If you feel they really
Yeah,
have
so,
time.
yeah,
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Kind of.
So you
Yeah.
You guys having fun? Okay, I just want to make sure that you understood what, I mean, if you want to talk about these two examples and tell if you really feel these two examples are examples of these two crimes, right? Yeah, okay, I just wanted to make sure, because another group had a question, so I wanted to make sure you guys understood.
Impersonation is really hard.
I think so. Actually, my grandmother was tried to do some involved in this because some person called my grandmother to repair or clean my house with cheap price. So my mom, she didn't know anything about anything. So she said, okay, sure. And
And try to get
yes, but
do something.
yes, but at that time my mom can go for it was good because my mother noticed the situation.
Call the police.
Just my mom told
We'll take about one more minute and finish up. All right, let's go ahead and start then. Ingrid and Juyang had number 1 and number 2, so they're going to. Oh, I'm sorry, Gigi. I always do that. I'm so sorry. Please excuse me. I'm so sorry. So, Gigi and Ingrid have number 2. Can you please go ahead and talk to the class and express your opinions about these two examples of assault and robbery and then abduction?
Okay,
You can just tell the class.
I'm going to talk about the assault and robbery. And the example here, it is it explains what it is, assault and robbery, because these teenagers really hit the person and take his belongings. And that is a crime.
Okay.
I think I'm sure you need to.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Just talk to the class. and try to speak a little bit loud. This is kind of loud, and I couldn't hear Ingrid very well.
In my opinion, this example is a story of adoption because, according to law, the father has also the right to be with his children. So this example is absolutely adoption, and it is kind.
Okay. So Ingrid and Jihi both think that the two examples there are crime. Okay. Misuk and Mandy had number 3 and 4. Could you guys talk to the class about your opinions on 3 and 4?
I'm talking about
Vandalism. Can you talk a little bit louder? I can't hear you.
Vandalism.
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 You can practice that one.
Okay. In my case, when I was 6 years old, I followed my cousin into the elementary school, and my cousin destroyed the lock in the lock in the classroom, and I just followed him, and I just saw him rob some property. And he destroyed everything, including chair, table, and teacher's table, and the backbone. But I did not do anything. I just looked.
But you knew about it and you saw him. You didn't say anything.
But I think this is
Vandalism. So you think what they did is really vandalism. So they deserve punishment. Okay. So what's your story have to say? If it just means that if they did, do you think you should have been punished in your situation?
I think my cousin should be punished.
How about yourself?
Together.
What? What? Together. Right, because you were there with him. Okay, Lisa.
Okay, I'm talking about delinquent payments. I don't think the couple, pay money, the couple are not criminals. Because of course, anybody could have the same situation. Anyone could be broke.
Yes.
Yes. But if the owner of the apartment asks the police to arrest the couple, in that case they will go to prison.
Right. When I read this one, I also felt, I was unsure about this because of my situation that I had before. I had to have emergency surgery in the hospital, and I had to end up staying in the hospital for about 8 days because of, for some reason, my body wouldn't accept blood. I kept bleeding after the surgery. So they had to do a lot to try to stop the blood, and I was in there for 8 days, and the total hospital bill was $71,000.
How much?
$71,000. How can I afford to pay that? And after 4 days, only 4 days of not paying the bill, the hospital turned me over to what we call a collection agency, and they try to collect the money from people who don't pay their bills and they become delinquent. And the collection agency even, they threatened me. And I hadn't even recovered from the surgery. I had 2 surgeries within a 24-hour period. And I was trying to explain my situation, how I didn't have a job, and that I was a student, and I didn't expect this surgery, that I was going to have this second surgery and things like that, and all the blood issues, but they didn't care. But I can understand that they have a lot of issues where people really don't pay and could pay. But sometimes I feel in this kind of situation they need to, try to work it out.
So you think, this couple, will get help from the kind of collection service? No.
I don't know, but some situations it depends. You know, for some bills that I've had, I've not been able to pay immediately, and they offer some kind of, well, you pay a little bit each month until you get back up on your feet. If this couple really lost their job or something like that, then they deserve some kind of help. But if they just didn't pay their rent and just, you know, bought a new entertainment system for their home with the latest DVD player and surround sound, then that would be a different case because they wasted their money.
How about this case, you know, if I couldn't, if I cannot pay the tuition fee, so can I get any kind of help from the school?
I think they let you put it on a payment plan. They can let you can be placed on a payment plan. But if you don't make your payments on time, they will turn it over to a collection agency. And then the interest will increase also. Because I have a friend that had this happen, but he worked it out because they tried to charge him for housing, but he didn't live on campus. He was a commuter. He just drove back and forth. And he kept trying to tell them, but I don't know what he didn't do. He didn't prove something or turn in some paperwork, so they turned him over to a collection agency. But the school, the university worked it out with him. After he turned in the proper paperwork, they dismissed everything. But it depends on everybody's situation, I think. Okay, let's go ahead and continue. Ju Young and Tomomi, you guys seem like you're having a lot of fun over there. Okay.
Talking about impersonation.
Can you speak a little bit louder?
I'm talking about impersonation
Mm-hmm.
and breaking and entering. I think it's this situation is crime.
Mm-hmm.
And because this person this man tried to steal and he acted like thief,
Mm-hmm.
so it's fine. And
Okay.
actually my grandmother almost was involved in this situation.
Oh, really? You want
She didn't.
She was not. She was the one getting things stolen from, or was she stealing the stuff?
But she was trying to suffer. She was trying to steal.
Her stuff was being stolen.
No, yet, but because a man called my grandmother to clean my house and with cheap price,
Mm-hmm.
and my mother, she didn't know anything, so she said it's okay, she will come, and that person came and he entered my house and he started cleaning. But at that time, my mother came back, so it was safe.
Oh. So he was stealing things from your grandmother, or you think he was about to?
Maybe he was about to.
So he didn't really do anything. You just guys think probably that's what he was going to do. Remember we talked about this before? Scam. And we talked about like when people try to scam people through the telephone or internet. Do you remember when we've talked about that before? So maybe he was going to, try to scam your grandmother and, just maybe charge her a really expensive bill or something like that, or really steal something.
Or maybe I guess he was trying to show other plan to clean clean up my house with much higher price,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And he tried to get a lot of money from my mother.
Yeah, I heard about on the news or on TV. I can't remember if I heard it just on the radio or if it was on TV, but it was about movers. Like when you move, they move your stuff across the country or to a new place, and they would quote you a price, but actually the final price, that they're not sure until actually they do the moving, and they would quote people low prices and then charge them these outrageous prices when the stuff arrived at the new home, but then they would hold the people's possessions until they paid this outrageous, enormous bill. So that was a kind of new kind of scamming that was happening in the United States that I was reading about. Okay. Oh, we have one more, right?
Yeah. I'm talking about Force ID.
Did you do this before?
I'm so confused whether it is a crime or not, because honestly,
Have all of you done this?
I borrowed my friend's ID
Uh-huh.
to hang out with my friends
Uh-huh.
in the pub or something like that, because I'm now underage. But I'm not underage in Korea.
Right.
So I think that it's okay to borrow somebody's ID.
Oh. But you're in a new country now. That's a terrible thing to do. You're in a new country and you have to follow the rules in the new country.
I know.
Don't tell me anymore. Let's just stop at that, okay? Don't tell me anymore. The closest thing that I've ever come to doing something like this is I had a friend once that visited me at a university, and at my previous university, and they wanted to exercise in our gym. And my roommate let him borrow the ID, and he just went there and exercised and then left. Which the place didn't even check our IDs. So I don't know, that's kind of bad. I shouldn't have done it, but I kind of thought, well, it's just a small thing. But you can't get, I probably wouldn't have got put in jail or something for that. But I think if you do the thing that you were doing, you'll get in trouble. Don't get caught. And don't tell that you told me. Okay, so here's your, okay, it's good you guys are thinking about this. Now we're going to listen to a clip of some different people telling their opinions about these same examples. And what you're supposed to do is in number 2 is to circle sure or not sure, to signify if the person speaking is sure or not sure whether this is really a crime. We're running out of time, so I'm just probably going to play this one time, okay? So try to listen closely.
Life in Society. Series editor Bernard uses deeply material for the academic list. Recording is copyright. Page 114. Listening for opinions. Step 2. 1.
That's really terrible. What a horrible crime.
2.
I don't know. I guess the woman was wrong. After all, she was taking the son against the father's wishes.
3.
Well, that's a bad thing to do. At least nobody was hurt. But I think those kids should definitely be punished.
4.
Well, I don't know if that's so bad. Who knows? Maybe they had a good reason for refusing to pay the rent.
5.
That's awful.
It's horrible how someone can trick an old person that way. Poor woman.
6.
That's not all that bad. I know a lot of teenagers who have done things like that.
Now complete the steps in your book.
Okay, so I guess we know. So I think overall, like your guys' opinions were pretty similar to what was in the book. Whether it's right or not, okay? It's still pretty similar, okay. You know, we're almost running out of time, but I want us to get through at least one of these interviews because I think they're interesting and they have a lot of good vocabulary words in here. So what I want you to do now is, Misu, can you break off into this group? And you guys three can work together. And what I want you to do is to first, here's some more opinions on controlling crime at the top of page 116. Ways of controlling crime, not preventing but controlling. And I want you to write A or D there to signify if you agree or disagree with these ways to control crime. And after you finish independently, you can work in groups to discuss what your opinions. So it's at the top of page 116.
in some cases, a mother could have a reasonable. Yeah, in Korea, a woman killed her husband.
Yeah.
I think
We
she
think
was saying.
we can guess. They pretend not to pay just their fee.
Nothing. Yeah, it's kind of self-different, but yeah, the reason why she had killed her husband is she,
Number two.
her husband had cheated on her for 7 years.
Somehow
It's a kind of self-defense thing. Yeah.
how should we?
Okay, so what's that?
Hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy to
Yeah.
decide.
Yeah, all of these are things that are very controversial, and if you know, trying to reform criminals is a big issue. How to do it and if it works and things like that.
Yeah, I agree.
Kill somebody.
Okay, all of them.
Has to be.
Okay, unfortunately, we're out of time. We always run out of time, and I never get to cover everything that I prepared for, but that's better than not having enough. So I'm just going to close out to say that I hope you guys have learned today that this is a very controversial thing about how to punish someone for a crime and how it really works and how severe it should be, those kind of issues, and I hope it's got you started to think about that. What I would like you to do tonight or before Tuesday when we have the final is to just skim on page 116 and 117 about the interviews. Basically, these two paragraphs have everything that are in the interviews, okay? And then after you skim those pages, I want you to listen to track 8 on your CD. And after you listen to track 8 on your CD and read those 2 paragraphs, you should have no problem in filling out this take-home quiz. And this is the last quiz of the semester, so and then you can turn this in on Tuesday. Thanks, so. If you have any questions over it, you can just send me an email. But you guys have done these before in class, so it should be pretty self-explanatory. And just a final announcement is that the final exam is on Tuesday. That's next week at 1:30 to 3:30. We'll probably be out of here by 2:30, and then the potluck is tomorrow, and to bring a gift if you want. And I have your papers from your projects. I have all of your papers, and much better than before. Lots of improvement. Yeah. Yeah. I was just going to give it to the team.
Final exam here?
Yes, in this classroom. Yeah, sorry. And I also have a copy of the way I graded you for your whole project. I have a copy of the rubric I used. So, can you give one of these to Grace when you see her later? Here you go. Okay, you guys have been a wonderful class. I've enjoyed having you, and I'll miss you when I'm in Taiwan.
Wow. My meeting.
Huh?